Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to this video. In this one, we're gonna go over 3 things you can do right now to make your designs way more eye-catching and way more impactful. So let's get into it. So we're gonna talk about 3 elements. Number 1, we're talking about contrast. Now contrast normally refers to some sort of noticeable difference or distinction between elements in your design. But what is contrast? Is it dark and light? Is it big and small? Or is it using different kind of shapes? Well, really, it can mean any of those things. And you can use contrast to really bring a viewer in and draw them into your design. Number 2, we're talking about bold fonts or typography. Now, it gives a really good visual emphasis. It also gives you some sort of hierarchy when you put a bold title on there to let the viewer know what they're looking at. It draws their eye and it delivers a message. And number 3, we're talking about color. Now color is huge for brands. Usually brands will identify with certain colors and it gives you good sort of communication and meaning as to what you're about. So let's go over those 3 elements in a design. We're gonna make this in Affinity Photo, but you can apply these fundamentals in any program, Photoshop, Procreate. They're all gonna do the same thing. So let's get into it. Links in the description for the 2 files that you'll need. Let's go. Okay, so we're in Affinity Photo and I brought these 2 pictures in. We have the model here, and we have this background. Now, if you're not sure how to bring photos into Affinity Photo, once you download them, you're just gonna go up to File, Place, and then locate where they are on your computer to bring them in. And the canvas I'm using here, the size is just a letter size, 8.5 by 11, but A4 or legal size, anything that's a portrait mode will work just fine. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna isolate this model. So what I'm gonna do is select my model in the layers panel here. I'm gonna go over to my selection brush tool in the tools menu here. It's W on your keyboard. And if you want to learn more about the selection brush tool, I have a fantastic video on it, which I will link below, which will teach you everything you need to know. But now that I have my selection brush tool selected, my mouse changes to this circle and I can make my selection brush tool bigger or smaller using the bracket key. So if I use the left bracket key, it gets smaller. If I use the right bracket key, it gets bigger. So I'm just gonna go around and paint on this model and Affinity Photo is gonna do its best to try to find the edges and isolate the model or the subject I'm trying to select. So I'm just gonna go through here and just paint over top of them with my mouse. And it's doing a pretty good job, it looks like. So let's see how we did. So now that he's selected, I'm gonna go up to the refine button at the top here, click on that. And it looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just touch up by his hair here and I'll touch up around his hair here just to be safe. And what I always like to do is change the background to see what it looks like. So under refine selection in the preview thing here, I like to always select white or black depending on what I'm working with, but I'm gonna pick white and his hair looks good. This looks like a really good selection. So this could be a little bit better by the rope here, but I'm okay with that. So that's good. Under output, I'm now gonna select new layer because I want this new isolated model on his own layer. So I'm gonna select that, hit apply. And when I do that, I'm gonna get a new pixel layer that appears here, which is him isolated with no background. So now that I have that, I'm gonna get rid of the original model with the background because I don't need that. And I'll rename this guy model. Now, if I turn this background on, if I pull the model to the top and pull the background on, it looks pretty cool. There's already like a decent amount of rule 1, which is the contrast, but what I wanna do is make him black and white so he pops more with the background color. We're gonna change the background color anyways, but I just wanna show you that. So with my model selected, I'm gonna go to my adjustments here at the bottom of my layers panel. I'm gonna click on that and I'm gonna pick black and white. And when I do that, my black and white window is going to appear. And because my black and layer adjustment has popped up at the very top of the layer stack, if I start moving the slider, it's going to affect the model and the background. And I don't want that. I just want it to affect the model. So whenever you make an effect and you want to clip it into one particular layer or one thing within Affinity Photo, just highlight your adjustment and click it and drag it over top of the layer you want to affect and let it go. So now I have the model and clipped inside is this black and white adjustment. So now when I make adjustments on this model, it's just going to affect him and not the background. So I'm going to move these sliders around a little bit and just try to get some contrast between him and the background. And I think this looks pretty good. Like I'm happy with that. So I can close that. So now I have my model that's black and white with a colorful background. So now I have a really good contrast between the two. What I'm gonna do now is change the background color to something different. So to do that, I'm gonna click on the background layer. Again, I'm gonna go back to my adjustments. And this time I'm gonna pick recolor. and recolor is going to appear. It's in between the layers right now, but I'm going to drag it on top of my background because I just want it to affect the background. And then I'm just going to mess with this slider here to find a color I want. I think I want to do like a blue, like a really strong blue, which I think this is pretty strong. I like that. So this is pretty contrasty. I like how this looks. So I'm going to go with this. So now I have my model, I have my background, and now I'm going to add some text. So we're going to do number 2 of the simple things you can do to make your designs more impactful. And I'm going to add some bold text, and bold typography. So I'm going to go over to my text tool over here in the tools menu, click on that. I'm just going to click and drag out, and I'm just going to write the word fitness. And the text is actually exactly where I want it. A lot of times when you create something new, it'll pop to the top of the layer stack. If you look at my layers panel here, and it looks good, but I actually kind of want it behind him to give a cool effect. What I'm going to do is drag him down a little bit, and I'm going to move this text behind him in the layers panel. So I'm just going to drag it below him. So now you can read the word. It's still legible, but it's got some bold text and it's kind of behind him. So it looks kind of cool. He stands out a bit. So now we have good contrast between the background and the foreground. And we also have some bold typography to catch the reader's eye when you're walking past. So I'm going to do another thing here with the text. I'm going to take this background layer and I'm actually going to duplicate it because I want to take the same texture and put it inside the text. So with Affinity, you can copy layers. If you're on a PC, you're going to hold down Alt and drag. Or if you're on a Mac like me, you're going to hit Option drag. And that's going to create a second layer. So it's going to copy a layer essentially. Now what I want with this particular layer is I want to, number 1, change the color of it, and number 2, clip it inside the text. So what I'm going to do is clip it inside the text first. So I'm going to grab, just say this background layer, there's no wrong answer, they're the same. And I'm just going to hover over top of the text and let it go. And when I do it, it's going to disappear because it's the same color, so it's kind of hiding. So what we'll do is just open this up. We are going to go down to our recolor adjustment that's attached inside this. Double click on that. And then I'm just going to move this around to pick another strong color. And I actually kind of like the original yellow. So you know what? I might actually just turn the recolor adjustment off and go back to the original yellow, which looks not bad, but it could use some, it could use a little bit more excitement. So actually I'm going to put that back. I'm going to put the recolor adjustment back on that, and I'll drag it to yellow, but I want it to kind of really pop. So that orange actually looks really good, but I think I'm going to stick with yellow just for now. And then I'm going to just move this around to find exactly where I want it. Maybe something like, I like the grit in there. Maybe something like this. So now we have good contrast between the background and the foreground. We have this bright, bold text, which is great. So that's number 1 and number 2. I'm going to add some more text here just to make it a little bit more exciting. I'm just going to say get fit right here, put that there, or maybe over here, and I'm going to keep another layer, and I'm just going to say have fun. Just add a little something to it here, make it a bit smaller, make this guy a bit smaller. So we have that. And now I'm going to add one more thing of color as well, just to make it really stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my shapes over here. I'm going to click on this ellipse tool, this circle, and my mouse is going to change to a kind of a crosshair. I'm going to hold shift down because I want to make a perfect circle. So I'm going to hold shift, click and drag out a nice circle here. And what I want to do is I want this circle to be the same color yellow as the title there. So to do that, I'm going to have my circle selected. I'm going to go up to my color picker tool up here. I'm going to click, drag it over top of my text because it'll find basically any color you have in your target here. I'm going to pick this yellow, release my mouse. With my circle selected, I'm going to go back to my color picker, hit it, and now the circle should be the same color as the text above. Now, I want this circle behind him, so in the layers panel, I'm just going to click, drag it below him, and now it appears behind him. And it looks cool, like it's a bold circle, but what I want to do is make it a little bit bigger, and I want to make it a bit blurry, so it's kind of glowing behind him. So with my circle selected, I'm going to go down to my effects at the bottom of my layers panel here, click on that, and I'm going to click on Gaussian blur or Gaussian blur, some people say. Click on that. I'm going to drag the radius up so it gets blurry. And it's blurry, but not blurry enough for me. So the slider maxes out at 100. And if you ever find this in Affinity Photo, you can always just type what number you want in here. It maxes out at 100 in the bar, but you can type whatever you want. So I'm going to type 350. I think that looks pretty cool. So now we have this glow behind him, which is going to be rule 3 for color, just to give him, again, more contrast, but more color. And it looks pretty cool. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add another ellipse with a sort of a different color just to make it glow a bit more. So like we copied a layer earlier, I'm going to do the same thing. I got what I want to copy selected. On a PC, you'll hold down Alt. On a Mac, you'll hit Option, click, and drag. Now I have 2 of them. So this second one here, the one that's on top, this is with 1, this is with 2. I'm going to make this like an orange color, like a cool orange. And I'll bring the opacity down a little bit, and I might make it a bit bigger, just so we get kind of a cool glow behind him as well. So this is our poster we've made only out of 2 pictures. So number 1, we isolated the subject. We made him black and white because we knew the background would be colorful, so we could create contrast. Number 2, we did a title with bold type, bold typography, to stand out and really catch someone's attention as to what they're looking for. And number 3, we just used a couple colors to play off each other to really make the aesthetic of the design pop out. So we've just got basically a yellow and a blue, and we also have an orange in there, and of course the black and white to apply to the design. So you can do this in any program, Photoshop, Procreate, Affinity. These are just some basic steps you can do to make your designs really pop out. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, if you don't mind, tapping that like button. I would be ever so grateful. And if you've never seen my stuff before and you found this video helpful, well, why don't you just go ahead, join the gang, not an actual gang, and, stay tuned because I got new stuff coming all the time. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.